Hey there, welcome to This Week in the Shop with Scott. I've got a couple different projects going on, a little customization for the canoe, also working on some cutting boards, maple walnut for some orders that are coming up, so hope you enjoy the video. A couple weeks ago, I added a name to the canoe. I just now revealed it to my dad, so I did not want to put it in the previous episodes in case he were to watch them. But decided to name the canoe after my grandmother, his mom. She passed away in June of 2020, 10 days shy of her 95th birthday, so I thought this would be a nice tribute to her. I started with some cedar veneer that I processed through the planer and drum sander, and then cut the letters out with the laser engraver. With the top sanded down, I used Total Boats epoxy to apply the letters. Once that dried and a light sanding across all that, I then used Total Boats Lust varnish and applied 8 coats to seal this up. I made a trip to Mims, my local lumber yard, to pick up some hardwoods to use for some cutting boards. I always love a good trip here. Before starting the milling process, I went ahead and emptied my dust collection bin, as I'm sure I would overrun it before I was completed. With the bin empty, I now moved on to cutting down the walnut and hard maple boards. I just like to work with smaller pieces. Now with the joiner set up, I could get a flat face and a square edge to work with on the table saw. With the board squared up, I moved over to my table saw and ripped the widths for the boards that I'm making. With all the pieces prepped, it was now time to glue and clamp. Again, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I always go to Titebond number 3 for this, for its waterproof properties, and has not failed me yet. With the glue drying on the cutting boards, I moved on to another project my wife brought home, which was a mirror frame, but instead of the brown background, she preferred it to be black. So I started by removing the mirror rather than taping it off. Cutting through the remaining adhesive, the mirror broke free. With the glue set, it was time to pass the cutting board blanks through the planer. A few passes on each side was all we needed. Then over to the drum sander to take out any marks from the planer knives. The breeze had died down outside, so I gave the mirror frame a quick spray of black lacquer finish. And while the paint was drying, I moved on to cutting my cutting boards to the correct length. Started with cutting off the excess, and then marked the first one to 12 inches and made that cut. I could now set up a stop block so I could cut the rest of the boards all exactly the same way. As you can see, it's a good idea to not use the full fence where it might pinch the board against the blade, rather just a little block on the end. To finish the milling, I set up the router table with a chamfer bit and knocked down all the edges. I had one cutting board order I needed to get finished up for an order the coming week. So I quickly hit it with the orbital sander, starting with 80 grit and then up to 120 grit. Then one of the keys of getting a nice smooth finish is water popping the grain. While that board is drying, I went back to the Stars and Stripe board I started last week and gave it the final sanding so it was ready to engrave the logo and be full. Thank you for watching.